Hi, I'm Ada Rose Cannon. I've just come from a full day of chairing the Immersive Web Working Group, so forgive me if I'm a little tired. But I'm here to talk to you today about the WebXR Device API, which is the API developed by the Immersive Web Working Group to allow access to the displays and sensors of VR hardware so you can make virtual reality and augmented reality experiences. I work for the web browser Samsung Internet. Has anyone heard of Samsung Internet before? A few more hands than usual. That's pretty good. Yeah, how do I get to the next slide? Oh, no, it doesn't match. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's a pretty cool browser. I like it. They pay me. That's enough of that. So the WebXR Device API is it's based around WebGL. So you can render a scene using information you've got from the hardware, and you can send it back to the device. And ends up with a pretty good result, because you can. I want to see what slide here. Oh, well, it's fine. I'll just look up here. So yeah, you can. The goal of the WebXR Device API is that it allows you to build one experience that works across devices, and not just across VR headsets, but between mobile phones and headsets, between virtual reality devices and augmented reality devices. So you can build one experience which can progressively enhance to whatever the user has. See, I want to see my notes, because that would be much easier for me, but oh well. So yeah, I mentioned handsets because one of the really nice features of the old WebVR API was that people built these things where you could look through the device as if it was a magic window, as a way to onboard people onto a full immersive experience. It was a way to give people like a little taster of your VR scene in order to persuade them to have a go at full virtual reality. And this was such a popular pattern that worked so well, we've made it a first-class citizen in the API, in the WebXR Device API. So inline sessions can be embedded inside a web page, allowing you to do virtual reality, which they can view just by moving their phone around. And then should they decide to, they can push the button and put it into a headset if they've got something like a Gear VR, or they can fire it up on their computer or on a standalone headset. And yeah, the end result of building VR and AR on the web is that it does end up being the fastest way to get a new developer building their virtual reality experiences for the first time. Some of the libraries like JavaScript, Babylon, A-Frame, they're fantastic for getting people started building VR really quickly, and they don't have to worry about specializing their experiences for specific pieces of hardware. They can build it once, and they can try it out on a variety of devices. And it's really nice seeing an experience which someone's built for and tested on a cardboard because that's all they had, and then I can take it home and fire it up on my HTC Vive and have an amazing experience. We've recently tweaked the way we've been working in the Immersive Web Working Group. We've broken up the API into modules. So the WebXR spec is more or less a replacement for WebVR. I don't want my phone near the mic. And we've the bits of the AR parts and kind of gamepads have been moved out into modules which are being worked on separately in parallel, letting us have much faster iteration on these components, without having to do releases of the full API. But I've meant, oh yeah, who's involved in the Immersive Web Working Group is kind of cool. There's loads of big companies involved. See if I can remember this slide without looking behind me, because I've just been in meetings with them all day long, and I'm embarrassing if I can't. So we have Samsung, that's me, and we have Google, Amazon, Apple, Magic Leap, Facebook, because they do the cool Oculus hardware, or who am I missing? Oh, I think I've got everyone. Oh, Microsoft. I'm so sorry. Microsoft and Google. Forgot the really big ones, yes. But loads of cool people doing amazing work, and it's a super positive and fantastic working group, and I like being involved. Yeah. So when can we expect it to land? Because I've been talking about it, I've been talking it up. Well, it's kind of landing like ish at the moment, so we can expect it to start landing in a browser near you over the next 6 months in a variety of browsers. It's looking to come into Samsung Internet in, let's say, Q2 next year, yeah, which is pretty cool. But if you want to use it today, there is a polyfill you can use. You can get the polyfill from our GitHub, and I'm not nervous, I'm just really cold. Yeah, so you can get the polyfill from our GitHub, and you can use it to start experimenting and testing with the API. So I've mentioned WebVR a lot this talk, and has anyone built stuff with WebVR before? Oh, okay, I expected more of you, because it was really popular, and unfortunately it has been deprecated. It was a really great way to start fleshing out, working out what we needed for a API to access immersive hardware, but it had numerous issues that kind of stopped it being future-proof and was kind of holding us back a little bit. So it pivoted into like WebVR 2.0 and WebAR for a while, but nowadays like it's all just WebXR, which is the umbrella term for everything, and should be one API that handles all your needs. So yeah, I'm now going to go into a little bit of detail in my last couple of minutes about the modules, because WebXR largely replaces what WebVR did. It's a way to access the sensors and displays of the VR headset. And it's just VR right now. AR is a separate module, which I'm going to talk about last. But first I'm going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is the controllers, because it's cool to pick stuff up and throw stuff. So the way controllers work in XR is surprisingly complicated, because it's difficult to map what the user has in their hand to not only a real device, to a real to a virtual representation of the real device in a way that's responsive, but also to do in a way that's secure and doesn't expose too much information as like a fingerprinting target. So yeah, the XR input source is what contains the information for our VR controllers. So it contains information which allows you to access the position and rotation of the device in real space. It also has a gamepad object itself. And this gamepad object is very much, well, it is like a gamepad you get from the Get Gamepads API, but it itself doesn't appear in there. So the Gamepads API is stage reserved for stuff like GameCube controllers or PlayStation controllers or SNES controllers, whatever you're using. But we can use those two information to to actually build the rest of it. So we don't provide a 3D model or any of the information known to you, because this information would quickly get out of date. If we would build it into the platform, our experiences would quickly degrade over time. So instead, it's the kind of thing we're doing as an open source library. So we're providing the profiles which map the physical hardware to the virtual model of the controller as JSON files. We have 3D assets kindly provided by the hardware manufacturers for the controllers. So you can get an actual representation of the controller you're using. And when you combine the information from the gamepad with the JSON files, you can work out what nodes to move on the controller. And there's a JavaScript library which is also in the repo as well, which lets you, which does all the interpolation and mapping for you. So you don't have to worry about any of the really difficult stuff, which means by including this, you can, no matter what headset you're using and what controllers, you'll always have a good representation of what you've got in your hands. So yeah, if you want to play with this today, you can. And instead of having an actual gamepad, there's sliders which represent the different inputs from the gamepad API. So you can slide them around and see how the 3D model behaves. So I'm hoping we can start seeing this used soon to have people having real, in real XR experiences. We have plans for augmented reality as well. So the main deal here is the Immersive AR enum. So WebXR handles virtual reality by allowing you to do inline sessions or sessions which are immersive in a virtual headset. Well, in AR, we only have one, which is Immersive AR, which handles both cases for mobile AR, where if you're using something like AR Core or AR Kit, it opens up in kind of like a new window, in like a full screen window. It can't be used in line with the page, but it can still be used on handsets, allowing you to use your phone to place objects in the scene. And it also works with immersive headsets like Magic Leap and HoloLens. So if you're like me and you can't afford the expensive devices, you can still build something targeting a mobile phone, and you have a pretty good expectation that it will work on the immersive headsets. But yeah, it's a lot of work, and we could do with some help. So there's a lot of resources which are in the which are just a lot of resources we could do with help building, which normal web developers can help with. So we have WebVR samples we could do with people testing on and doing pull requests too. We have tests which need writing and fixing. We want you to use the polyfill, and if you find bugs, please file issues and PRs. It'll be really fantastic to have more people involved in this effort. And try it out, give it a go. Build XR experiences. Thank you so much.